good afternoon. How are you?
So Max, how does it feel to have created this global phenomenon called Mad One?
you,
Have you had your coffee yet?
I actually don't know. It's often the reward is proportional. I'm talking of emotional reward, of course, is proportional to the angst and the state of being terrified when we create something. This could have gone awfully wrong. This could have been perceived absolutely a different way than what we actually intended it for. And it's actually seemingly going exactly what we planned for it, meaning what we wanted for it. When you create something as, gosh, I hate that word, disruptive, as what we created. And I'm not talking just of the product, I'm talking of the fact of a small artisanal brand, which is at super high-end, hand finishing, artisanal, super high engineered movements, to come out with a watch at that price point. Nobody's ever done that. Just think how scared Alain-Dominique Perrin must have been, 40 years ago, when he launched the Les Must de Cartier. And when Cartier in those days was, I'm going to say, at 6,000 francs or 5,000 francs, and he launched a watch at 1,200, which was a gigantic big difference. And here we are at 150,000, and we're launching one at 2,000. You can imagine the amount of discussions internally, which led to, are we going to do this? Are we not going to do this? I read a book, I think it's by a Korean professor at Harvard, Young Mi Boon, I think. And she says, the difference you get of reception from when you have a really stupid idea, which is actually going to make your company fail, and you have an absolute brilliant idea, which is going to change the world, you know what the difference is? There is none. You will have the same reception. People will consider you completely nuts and dumb and stupid. And it's like, where are we going? What are we doing here? So it's a long answer to your short question. You caught me a little bit, not really ready for that one.
But so I've been wearing my Mad One now for quite a few weeks, and I would say that the thing that I get from it is quite interesting. So I would say I know you created this at an accessible price category to in some ways allow your members of your staff, your friends, to have access to something that you've created, which is really nice, and it's wonderful how and I want to talk to you more about how it's become a community symbol. But the first thing I would say is that when I put this on my wrist and when I wear it, there is no difference in my emotional enjoyment of this than if I were to wear a watch that costs $200,000, right? But seriously, I understand that it's made in a different way, that the finishing is different, that based on the constraints of what you had to achieve relative to the price point, you had to use a certain type of movement, so on and so forth. But it doesn't matter. When I put it on my wrist, the enjoyment I get from it, the sort of engagement I get, the fact that it's so interactive, but also that it's beautiful and it's great on the wrist, there's absolutely no a sense of it being related to any price category or not. And I think that that's what's so interesting about this watch. It utterly transcends and sort of obliterates the price category in which it was born, right?
Yep, I have to agree with you there. And I think we already touched on how it was created, as it was supposed to be the beginning of a whole new brand, and which I decided not to do. But it's true that when I'm going to say this, I think there's this doesn't seem very humble. I think there's a great idea here, but I think more importantly the implementation was really done amazingly by our engineers, and the way they found ways to make a case which is completely seamless, no screws. The case of the fact of having this whole cup in glass, which is protected, but still you can see that there is light going in. Of course, the rotor itself, that tungsten and titanium rotor, and I think also what made this piece special is that even though we were planning for something which was at a much, much, much lower price point, we never cut any corners. On the contrary, because we are MB&F, we were so terrified that people would start pointing fingers like, whoa, you've gone down the road, that we gave everything we could for okay, let's do this, let's do that. And price is not an issue. But trying to be smart. And I think it really worked out. I agree with you. It really does work out.
So what I love about this watch also, for the people who were fortunate enough to get it, it's become kind of the ultimate community symbol. And it's interesting too. Like when I see it on the wrist of whether it's a journalist or someone who, is working at Mad Gallery, or who's one of your suppliers, or who's just a friend, right? And I would say that's probably how I would, qualify them first and foremost, as their friends of the brand, friends of you, friends, and it's a community, that we love, right? I saw so many of them on the wrists of people that I like and I respect during Geneva Watch Days, and it was cool. It was like, and when people see each other with this watch, they smile and they're like, hey, that's cool, that's amazing, you have one as well. Invariably, people do a wrist shot. They do one where everyone's trying to get their rotary going at the same time. Like, did you think that you were going to create something that became like this incredible community symbol? And how will you, keep this community super, connected, even as you expand the number of watches that you will make moving into next year?
Originally, the concept was actually not there. The concept was to create a watch for friends and family. But then the notion of friends started getting so complicated to define that we unfortunately had to define it. And it's difficult because people who are my childhood friends couldn't get it. My family couldn't get it. And I was absolutely, I didn't let one exception go through, because I knew if I did do one exception, I would be crucified. And so we had to put really tight boundaries. The people who owned an MB&F and owned the tribe, and the people who helped us as suppliers and artisans to build the brand. And of course, there's a big frustration in me that I would like it to go to the next tier. But coming back to the reaction of the sense of belonging, we discovered that afterwards. It was not intended. It was an incredible added benefit, or fringe benefit, which we hadn't thought about. And it's given us other ideas, because when I got so many messages, we're talking of, we're not talking dozens, we're probably taking hundreds of messages of MB&F owners who got their Mad One, like, wow, this is so incredible, so cool, thank you so much. You realize, and we all know that, for me, giving a gift is way more pleasurable than receiving a gift. And when you give a gift and you see somebody, wow, that's so cool, you get so much love, you get so much adrenaline, it's endorphins, you get everything. So we're thinking of how can we start creating specific objects, I'm not saying watches, specific objects which will be reserved to that community. And not only watches. And so I had other ideas that we're now trying to get ahead. Of course, the problem is we've got 8 calibers in the pipeline. We're talking of MB&F here. And since then, we've created 2 other MADs, completely different products. So that's 10. And our young group of 6 engineers are looking at me going, dude, if you have one more idea, I don't want to hear it, because we're going to 2026, 7 at this point. And I'm like, I have got an idea for next year. Like, no, you don't get it. We have no more time for the next 6 years. And so it's a little bit complicated to try and find the resources to get these ideas to come to life.
Well, that's amazing that it did come to life, and I have to say it's something incredibly special. But the purpose of this conversation was also to talk about the $86,000 elephant in the room, which is this watch. right? So you were so kind as to create a PS Unique, which I know you don't even create PS Uniques for MBNF. So you created a PS Unique Mad One with this beautiful pink colorway for our charity auction, the Pink Dial Project, which benefits breast cancer through the UICC, which is the WHO's cancer arm. And so I remember when we were in Geneva, we were speculating a little bit about, how much do you think it's going to go for? And I think we thought $15,000 to $20,000, which already is basically 10 times what its retail value is, was already would be quite ambitious, but we thought potentially we could make it there. Dude, it's at $86,000. I mean, Max, what's going on here?
I have no idea. We discussed 15 to 20. That would be fantastic. And you guys put it online, and I hadn't had the time to go and check it out, that it was already, I think, at 29 or something like that. The first time I went onto the website, I was like, oh, 29, wow. And then it just went on. And I was thinking, wait a minute, why is it going now? Because the auction is lasting 7 days. It's actually not now that you should be bidding. It's probably at the end. And what really made me happy, and the whole team was so happy, is that it's not only two people battling. There are many of them. If you look at the history, which is great with Loop-This, you can actually see who, with handles, of course, who is bidding. You see that there are different people, and of course, there's one person who's all the time on the top. But there are different people who've come in and said, okay, I'm going to give you a run for your money, and boom, 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 and then somebody else, and then somebody else, and then somebody else. So that means that there are different people who are ready to put a big amount of money for a just cause and for this cool piece. And yeah, it makes us even happier, of course.
I mean, it's extraordinary. And it was amazing because the guy who I think has the winning bid at the moment actually reached out to me, DM'd me on Instagram. So I told him, well, you and I will take him out at some point, in whatever city it'll be, because he's a pretty cool dude, right? Clearly. So, I mean, also, it has to be said that at $86,000 now for a 2,000 Swiss franc watch, approximately, this as a statement of brand equity for Max Büsser is an incredible statement, right? Because it says that the demand and desire for your creations is so strong that people don't even care what the cost is related to these things. They just want part of what you create or something that you've created. And it's very interesting to me because I've been looking at the last couple of years, in particular, I would say the last 18 months, and we've seen this massive interest in independent brands, which I think is going to continue for a very long time. But of those independent brands, I would say MB&F or Max Büsser or Mad One or anything related to the Max Büsser universe, and probably Debuthun are the two that have a limitless trajectory. Max, what do you have in store for the future? Do you look at this as a sign also of the incredible brand equity you have?
2 years ago, a little bit more than 2 years ago, we sat down with the team and we, I remember telling the team, look, I think it's one of our number one goal now is to give value on the secondary market to our customers. That is a responsibility of the team. A few brands had already managed that in those days. I mean, it wasn't as crazy as it is today. It was pre-COVID. So I said, look, it's part of our duty to make sure that if somebody has the courage to buy an MB&F, he or she can at some point resell it and not lose too much money. We were already in those days amongst the independents, and I'm not taking the Dufours and others, and we were amongst the best value in secondary market. But it was like, let's try and do. So we didn't change anything to our product lineup. We didn't change anything. We didn't try to be more commercial or more pleasing or whatever. It's just on the how do you say, the rarity part. It's on one time on the rarity, and the other is trying to make people even more understand what we're standing for. And what helped us was indeed COVID and everybody being blocked at home, and all of us in front of our Zooms and IG lives and whatever. And suddenly we were able to communicate so much more than through the normal channels. it's weird, but for us, COVID has been a blessing, not only for us MBNF, I think that all the independents, where we've been able to have these discussions and talks, which big brands cannot. You can't go and have an open-hearted discussion with the owner or CEO of a really big brand. It doesn't really happen that way. And so we had all these incredible discussions with people listening and people realizing that humanity was maybe more important, at least as important as status. And then suddenly this whole loop happened. Now, we're of course going to continue on that trajectory. We're at a point which is complicated. We've over the last, I think we're at close to the last 16, 17 months, we've been averaging over 140% now sellout, meaning for every 10 watches we manage to deliver to our retail partners, 14 are leaving their stores, which means that there will soon not be any pieces left in the market. Are we happy about it? Yes, of course. But what are we going to do about this? That's the big question. And so it's the beginning of MBNF 3.0, I feel like saying. The 1.0 was going from 0 to about 15 million francs, which I've always been completely transparent on what I was trying to achieve in all the numbers and everything. That was 2013, which I hit my sort of life goal of MBNF, which was the year my first daughter was born. I decided that year MBNF 2.0, which was no more growth. And we've been flat 2013 to 2020. But now clearly we have to start growing our quantities a little bit. The stores are going to be completely empty in 6 months. So we put this insanely aggressive plan together of plus 11% a year. So to give you an idea, we were doing 215 watches last year, but this year we've done a big jump where I think we're at 265, and it's going to be really tough to achieve that. And then from there onwards, it's plus 11%, knowing that there's already 40% more demand today. Could we do more? We probably could. Do we want to do more? Absolutely not. So the growth, actually the reason of the growth is much more towards my team than towards the outside. When you have no growth in a company, you start having a certain level of frustration, because every new project we wanted to do, we had to cut another one. There is no more money. It's always the same level. So you want to hire somebody, well, then you have to cut something else. You've got more work. Well, how are we going to make this? So we're going to have to cut something else. So it's all the time making decisions. It's been 7 years of decisions, weighing, what are we going to cut? What are we going to cut? What are we going to cut? And honestly, I didn't realize how much it weighed on my team. It really, some of them had their morale going down. Like, it's a bit of Groundhog Day also. Every year, like, oh, we start all over again and all these crazy new products, ideas, but we have no more means. We do not have more means. So this little growth project, I was really shocked, because when I announced it to our team, it was in June this year. I was expecting a little bit of, oh my gosh, he's selling out. He's growing. And actually it was completely the other way. Everyone was like, yeah, finally. Have some more means to develop new things. And so it's a testimony to them, and it's for them that I'm doing that.
Well, that's great. And I think universally, from a collector perspective, from a journalist perspective, and I'm sure for your team, who I saw during Geneva Watch Days, and their mood was ebullient. I mean, they were in such a great mood as well. I think that growth is extremely important, because, you know, and I think that you, of course, you being you, you're a very responsible person, and you're, you know, in some ways conservative. You're artistically very adventurous, and, you know, fiscally quite conservative, you know, so right. So, but 11%, you know.
You got MAD on top of that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to explain to people that MAD is not a business.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to take, and when I'm saying plus 11% MBNF, but we don't want to take all the resources of MBNF to put into MAD. And I've already said it, I think, a couple of times, that the 450 MAD ones that we'll have finally managed to deliver, we still haven't finished delivering all of them this year, is the revenue of 5 perpetual calendars.
Right.
MB&F. So out of our 265 watches this year, MB&F, 5 of those are the revenue of the 450 Mad Ones. But the bandwidth, the energy, the work which Mad One took from our team for that, it makes absolutely no financial sense at all. So yes, we're going to continue because we find it incredibly stimulating on a human level, on a tribal level, on a creative level. But this is not a business. I do not believe, I should never say never, but I do not believe I'm ever going to transform that into a business.
So let me ask you this then, with 11% growth and, with the crazy demand for your watches now, I mean, it's basically everything is selling out, or it's sold out the moment you launch it. How are you saying no nicely to people?
I think you see the real, how do you say, personality of people when they're in power. When they're in difficulty, everybody can be kind and trying to get your attention and being nice because they're in difficulty. But when they're in power, that's where the real you comes out. And you see if you're a douchebag or if you're a really kind soul. And that's something with our teams. I mean, guys, I've seen so many examples recently of employees of big brands treating customers like dirt, being so arrogant, and that's just so wrong. So the whole treat people the way you want to be treated when it was tough or when it was okay, it has to be the same as when you're doing super well. So, and that's something typically I've always been amazed is how well, for example, at least all the examples I've been given, you're treated when you go to the Patek Philippe boutique in Geneva. You're at Joe Blogs, you enter that boutique and say, I'm looking for a steel Nautilus with a blue dial. And instead of just laughing you out or telling you F off, which a few brands will do, they will actually entertain you and give you a polite explanation. Sometimes they'll even let you try one on and say, I'm sorry, it's not possible to have it, but we're happy to make you. So many other brands, well, they'll just kick you out. Like, well, what are you talking about? So we want to be there. We want to be those people. And credit to Patrick Kremers and his team, and of course Thierry Stern, that in that particular case, I think we would like to be that sort of person.
Well, Max, I mean, congratulations on the extraordinary success. I cannot think of a guy that deserves it more, and a guy I admire more. And I know that the year is not over for you yet. I'm sure there's many more things in store, of which I have no idea. So, but I will look forward to seeing those unveiled in their due course. And wishing you all the best. And I guess you'll be in Geneva next week, then, right?
I'll be in Geneva next week, and then I'll see a lot of you guys, for those who can manage, in Dubai, during Dubai Watch Week, end of November. So those are the polarizing events of the end of the year. I'm looking forward to it.
I'll see you at both of them. So I wish you the best to your family, and thank you for taking the time, sir.
Take care. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Bye. Thanks, Max.